Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, September 10th. A lot to talk about this morning. We have some heavy rainfall in the mid-Atlantic region. It's getting a boost from a tropical system that has been meandering to the northwest near the east coast, and it is throwing some moisture back into the mid-Atlantic region. We talked about that over the past couple of days. Out in the far west, there's wildfire activity continuing in places like western Washington, western Oregon, northern California, producing all kinds of smoke and ash out in that part of the nation. And meanwhile, the tropics are very active. This happens to be the climatological peak of the Atlantic Basin season. If you really count the number of storms over the years and try to pinpoint it to one particular day, one analysis shows that today, September 10th, is the actual climatological peak in terms of the number of active storms in the Atlantic Basin, and it is surely living up to that. And we'll see that in a moment here with not one or two or three, but actually 6 or 7 different waves to monitor in the Atlantic Basin at the current time, and certainly it'll be something to monitor over the next week to two. This is a NOAA plot that actually shows, when you're looking at the number of storms in the last 100 years, September 10th, which happens to be today, is the actual climatological peak, at least in terms of hurricanes and tropical storms in the Atlantic Basin. Now, it certainly is accurate to say, ballpark it, and say the middle of September is really the usual climatological peak. But again, if you try to pinpoint it down to one day, it's today. And boy, we have several different systems on the map today, September 10th. Well, here it is, the actual map of the positions of the tropical waves as we speak today, September 10th. 6 different waves to monitor here. First of all, let's talk about all of these. This one is still not a tropical storm or a tropical depression, but it is throwing moisture back into the mid-Atlantic region, all the way into the Carolinas, Virginia, now really all the way up to New York City, and encompassing this whole region right here. We talked about this over the past couple of days, that at a minimum this will boost the moisture, the available moisture in places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City, and allow for the possibility of some heavy rainfall. And indeed, there's some flash flood watches in much of this region right now with some heavy rainfall. We'll take a look at the radar in a moment, but again, getting a boost from this particular tropical wave. Now, these look like they'll head towards, both of them, into the Gulf of Mexico in this fashion here over the next 24, 48, 72 hours or so. So we'll continue to monitor those, as this one already is over the Gulf of Mexico and this one is headed that way. Now, these perhaps are the most concerning, because these are stronger, first of all, but they'll also continue to move on a west-northwest, really all 3 of these. Tropical storm Paulette, tropical storm Renee, and now a new wave just off the west coast of Africa, which is located right here. Again, all of these basically moving along slowly, but moving along at a west-northwest track that will head it towards the southwestern part of the Atlantic. So we'll have to monitor these over the next week to two, these over the next few days. Well, here's the latest radar loop of the Mid-Atlantic region, and again, some of this rainfall is coming down hard at times. There could be some possible strong thunderstorms later today into the evening hours. This extends from the DC metro region right here. Right now, the heaviest rainfall just to the south and east of the district. Not much going on in southeastern Pennsylvania. There were some showers in the overnight hours. And then you get up to the New York City, Long Island area, and some heavy rainfall right there. And this will tend to expand over the midday and afternoon hours, expand maybe to the north and west, and encompass pretty much of the Mid-Atlantic region with occasional showers, possible strong thunderstorms. And again, any shower or thunderstorm in this region can produce some heavy rainfall, all of it being aided by some tropical moisture that moved to the north and west of that tropical wave off the east coast of the U.S. Here's a forecast map by NOAA for the total precipitation amounts over the next 3 days. This runs from the period of this morning, Thursday morning, September 10th, all the way to Sunday morning, September 13th. A couple things I want to emphasize here. First of all, here is the heavy rainfall right in the I-95 corridor region, again partly aided by this tropical system sitting in a position right about here off the mid-Atlantic coastline. It is feeding some moisture. Maybe it's not a tropical storm, but it doesn't have to be a tropical storm to add a lot of moisture. And again, there can be some flash flooding concerns here, especially later today or early tonight in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and all the surrounding suburbs with any potential strong thunderstorm. Lots of activity down across the southeast, especially Florida. And again, we saw two waves, tropical waves, one already over the Gulf of Mexico, another headed towards the Gulf of Mexico right in this region right here, contributing to the heavy rainfall focused on the Florida peninsula. Finally, let me point out, look at this, nothing over the next 3 days in the western U.S. And it's not atypical for wildfires this time of the year in places like California, for example, especially September and October, when it's still very warm, kind of taking on the temperature characteristics of the summer, and still very dry, not quite into the rainy season of the winter. It is unusual for this kind of wildfire activity to be across western Washington State, western Oregon, and again, wildfires extend all the way down to northern California. This is the main area of wildfire activity going on right now, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like much rainfall in the next 3 days. However, beyond that, there is reason for some hope that it'll become a wetter pattern, at least along the coastal regions of Washington and Oregon and probably northern California as well. But for the next 2 or 3 days, still a dry pattern out there, contributing to the problem of wildfires, especially again in western Washington, western Oregon, and northern California. Well, let's walk through the GFS operational run from 6Z, from 0Z last night. I kind of have a different view here, a broader view of North America, because I wanted to encompass what is going on over the next several days with respect to all these waves in the Atlantic Basin. First of all, starting off today, Mid-Atlantic region, again, some heavy rainfall, and that's associated with tropical wave number 1 here, just off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Some rainfall over the next day or two across the Florida Peninsula, aided by the 2 different waves out there. Notice still some blues over Colorado. Still cold enough for some snow as we begin the day here, September 10th, Thursday, September 10th. But dry, very, very warm along the western seaboard here. Let's move forward here as we go in time. First of all, there is another wave over the Atlantic Ocean here, well east of Bermuda at this time. This moisture kind of departs the Mid-Atlantic region during the day on Friday. A more comfortable air mass moves in, aided by this high pressure system over the Great Lakes region. Very humid today in the I-95 corridor region, definitely noticeably less humid on Friday and Saturday. However, a frontal system that does push through stalls out in the region, keeps it a little bit unsettled, although more comfortable on Friday and Saturday. Cannot rule out a shower or two in the I-95 corridor region. Let's keep moving forward now into the upcoming weekend. Saturday morning, a tropical wave out here, a second one way out here, and a third one showing up over here in the Caribbean Sea region here. Meanwhile, high pressure takes control over the northeast U.S. for the upcoming weekend. Probably a decent day, a nice day, maybe a little bit on the cool side on Saturday, all the way down to, let's say, the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. Be farther south of there, mostly a cloudy time with that frontal system stalled out, but probably partly sunny in places like Philadelphia, southeastern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey. Probably mostly sunny a little bit farther north, closer to this high in New York City and all the way up to Boston. Meanwhile, still dry, still very warm out along the west coast. Now let's just kind of move forward here at a more rapid speed. Look at these tropical waves out here, and one of them moves close enough for some discomfort here, some uncomfortably close here by the early to middle part of next week. This particular model run does prevent it or keep it away from the coast, but here comes another one charging towards the west here at this particular time. Now we're dealing with a time period about a week from now, towards the end of next week. And on this particular model run, GFS actually pushes that system, which is one of those now, over the eastern Atlantic all the way into the ultimately into the Gulf of Mexico. Now we're getting into the speculation phase here because this is way out there now towards the third week of September. But look at that, GFS does have an important player here, perhaps a couple weeks away. We're talking almost 2 weeks from now. But the bottom line here is we have many, many waves in the Atlantic Basin to monitor. Some of this in the near term over the Gulf of Mexico and the Mid-Atlantic region, some of the longer term along the eastern seaboard, maybe the Gulf of Mexico, with those waves out across the eastern Atlantic. Again, 1 to 2 weeks away from any potential impact from those. A lot going on. Still have the wildfire activity out in the west, and watch out for some heavy downpours today in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.